On the dusty red plain of Asteris Prime, twin suns dipped low in the sky. Their light spread a warm, copper glow over the scattered settlement of New Dawn Colony. Tiny wind turbines turned slowly against the fading daylight, and in the distance, purple-leafed trees swayed like slow dancers. A soft breeze carried the scent of alien flowers, sweet with a hint of spice. In the heart of the settlement, a small, corrugated metal workshop stood half-buried by drifting sand. Its walls were patched with steel plates and clear plastic panels. Inside, tools hung from hooks and old robot parts lay in piles. Sparks flew when a makeshift welding torch met metal. A boy, no more than 8 years old, knelt over a half-finished drone, his brow furrowed in concentration. Kellen Reyes had lived on Asteris Prime nearly all his young life. His mother taught drone engineering at the colony school, and from her he learned how to bend metal and wire circuits. Dust covered his boots and legs, but he barely noticed. His eyes shone bright with excitement as he twisted a small gear into place. The drone's thin wings were made from scrap solar panels, and its frame was light enough to glide on the dry, Martian-like winds. Outside the workshop, Lena Torres held a slender telescope to her eye. She stood on a low sand dune, her dark hair catching the breeze. Lena was also 8, and she loved the world beyond the dusty plains. She had come to this dune after her lessons to practice pointing her telescope at the night sky. She kept a small leather journal of star maps, which she filled with quick sketches of constellations, nebulae, and the bright trails of passing comets. She paused as she noticed the glow from Kellen's welding torch. Curious, she lowered her telescope and walked toward the workshop. Kellen heard her approach. He wiped his brow with the back of his hand and looked up. His face broke into a wide grin. "Hi, Lena," he called, voice echoing against the metal walls. Lena waved and stepped inside. The air smelled of hot metal and oil. She crouched beside Kellen and peered at the drone. "What are you working on today?" she asked, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. Kellen pointed at the thin blades. "I'm finishing the wind harvester drone. It will float on air currents and sample the atmosphere higher up. I want to see what gases swirl around the upper layers." Lena's eyes widened. "That's amazing. You think it will work?" "If I do everything right, it will," Kellen said with confidence. Lena rubbed her chin. "Have you drawn a map of the currents? Maybe they shift when the suns change position?" Kellen nodded. "I used your star mapper code. Remember the idea you had? We can map air currents like you map stars." She smiled at him. "Yes. We'll need more data points, but it could work." They fell into easy silence, both caught up in the dream of discovery. Outside, the sky grew darker, the suns becoming rings of orange at the horizon. "Do you want to see the telescope I built?" Lena asked. "It's small, but it can track our 2 suns and the 3 moons." Kellen hopped to his feet. "Show me." He followed Lena outside. She carried her telescope from the dune and set it up on a small tripod beside a row of solar-powered lanterns. Lena adjusted the focus while Kellen watched. The sky dimmed to a deep purple as twilight arrived. Tiny specks of light blinked into view. Bright Vega, faint Orion, and the 3 moons of Asteris Prime, each a different shade of pale blue, soft green, and glowing white. "Look," Lena whispered, pointing. "That star cluster up there, see its shape? It reminds me of a flock of birds." Kellen squinted. "I see it. You're right. And there, by the green moon, is our favorite comet trail." He tapped his finger on the telescope's frame. They passed the telescope back and forth, taking turns. The air felt cool now, carrying a faint scent of strange blossoms that only bloomed at night. Lena closed her journal and looked at Kellen. His face was bright in the lantern light. "Do you promise we'll always explore together?" she asked, softly. Kellen set down the journal and took Lena's hand. "I promise. When we grow up, I will marry you, and we will explore every star we can reach." Lena laughed, a clear sound that echoed across the plain. She pressed a quick kiss to Kellen's cheek. "It's a promise," she said. He squeezed her hand and smiled. The promise hung in the air, bright as the first stars appearing overhead. The next morning, Lena and Kellen met again before school. The colony's schoolhouse was a long domed building of transparent aluminum. Inside, young colonists learned math, science, and the basics of survival on this harsh world. Lena sat at a desk near the window, drawing star charts as her classmates practiced reading and writing. Kellen sat a few seats away, sketching drone designs in tiny detail. During lunch, Lena opened her bag and pulled out 2 small sandwiches wrapped in cloth. One was buttered bread with smoked cream from the colony's dairy cows. The other was a nut paste with sweet alien berries. She offered the berry sandwich to Kellen. "Here," she said. "You like these?" He gratefully accepted. "Thanks. These are the best." They ate together, heads bent low, whispering about the night sky. Students around them chattered about pop songs and sports. But Lena and Kellen were lost in dreams of nebulae and wind harvester tests. After school, Lena rushed to meet Kellen at the workshop. She carried a bundle of metal rods and solar cell pieces. Kellen was already there, his hands covered in grease. "I have the rods for the drone's wings," Lena said, setting them down. "They're light and strong." Kellen studied them. "Perfect. You always know what we need." She smiled and rolled up her sleeves. Together they worked until the twin suns set again. Lena held the pieces while Kellen soldered and twisted wires. Their laughter mixed with the sizzle of metal under heat. When the drone's body was nearly complete, they stood back to admire it. The little machine looked like a silver dragonfly with thin wings and a sleek body. "It's beautiful," Lena said. Kellen grinned. "Just like our future adventures." Lena nodded. She took his hand and led him to the dune where her telescope waited. They watched the 3 moons rise and greeted each one by name: Selene, Thera, and June. As the moons climbed higher, they lay in the sand, side by side, staring at the sky. The wind was calm, and the purple trees cast long, soft shadows. Kellen turned to Lena. "Do you think we can visit the star cluster you showed me? The one like birds?" She reached into her journal and pointed at a series of star maps. "With a bigger ship one day, we'll fly right there. We'll see those stars up close." Kellen nodded. "I can't wait." They stayed on the dune until the air grew too cold. Then Lena led him back to the workshop, stopping only to pick a handful of glowing night flowers. The flowers' light was soft and pale, enough to guide their way. Inside, Lena tucked the flowers into a small glass jar and placed it on Kellen's workbench. "For light when you work late," she said. Kellen's eyes met hers, warm with thanks. "Thank you." They said goodnight and parted under the copper glow of the settlement's lamps. That night, memories of the day swirled through both their dreams. Lena dreamed of soaring through starlit skies with Kellen by her side. Kellen dreamed of year after year of working at Lena's side, building wondrous machines and mapping new worlds. And in those dreams, the promise lived on, pure and sure, like the twin suns that would rise again to light their young lives on Asteris Prime. A year had passed since Kellen and Lena made their promise on the red plains of Asteris Prime. In that time, their lives took them to very different places, yet in their hearts, they stayed close. Lena at the Orbital Academy, Lena Torres, stood on the landing platform of the Celestial Dawn, the shuttle that would take her to the Orbital Academy. The Academy was a giant ring station that spun slowly around Asteris Prime. From here, students learned to navigate the stars. Today was her first day. She carried a small satchel of supplies, notebooks full of star charts, a slim hollow tablet, and a piece of the glowing night flower Kellen had given her. She tucked it into her pocket for good luck. Inside the station, long corridors curved around the ring. Lights glowed softly along the walls. Lena felt her heart beat fast as she found her dorm. Other students greeted her with friendly smiles. Some came from Earth, some from colonies on icy moons or desert worlds. All shared one dream: to chart new paths among the stars. Her first class was Celestial Mechanics. An instructor with silver hair and warm eyes stood at the front. Hollow projectors displayed glowing star maps and wormhole diagrams. The instructor wrote symbols in the air, and lines traced across the room. Lena sat at a desk near the window. She watched Prime shrink into the distance as the station rotated. Her mind buzzed with questions. How do stars move? How can one predict a wormhole's shape? How do you keep a ship steady in zero gravity? She took notes quickly, her pen scratching against paper. When the instructor paused, she raised her hand. Sir, could you explain why the Lagrange points shift when the orbit changes? The instructor smiled. Excellent question, Cadet Torres. The points move because the balance of gravity and centrifugal force changes with the orbit. Watch this simulation. A 3D model of three bodies, Asteris Prime, its moon Jun, and the Academy, spun in the hollow space. Lena leaned forward, fascinated by how the invisible forces danced around each other. After class, she headed to the navigation lab. Here, students practice plotting courses through simulated star fields. Lena's session began with a challenge. Guide a cargo ship through a cluster of unstable asteroids to reach a distant colony before its air supply ran out. Her fingers flew over the hollow control panel. She drew a curved path that wove between drifting rocks. The simulation rattled as small impacts rocked the ship. Lena adjusted thrusters and drifted past the largest boulders. Finally, she locked onto the waypoint and docked safely at the colony station. Applause rang out from the instructors. Lena's heart soared. She breathed deeply, proud of her work. Yet even as she celebrated, she thought of Kellen's promise. She pulled out her hollow tablet and began typing a letter. My dearest Kellen, today I guided a ship through an asteroid field. I felt the wind harvester under your hands as I flew. I wish you could see the rings of this station. They shine like silver ribbons around our world. Always yours, Lena. She sent the letter through the colony data stream, knowing it could take hours to arrive. But even that delay could not dim her excitement. Kellen on the frontier world. Thousands of light minutes away, Kellen Reyes worked under the harsh sun of Varia 9. This world was known for its deep canyons and toxic storms. Kellen had arrived here to test his latest terraforming drones. These small machines could plant microbial starters in the soil, breaking down toxins and preparing the ground for future settlers. He crouched beside a row of drones, tightening the last bolt on one solar array. His hands were stained with grease. Sweat ran down his face. Around him, the wind howled across the canyon walls, kicking up red dust. His employer, Titan Corp, watched closely. Corporate supervisors in gray uniforms paced between the drones. They carried holoscanners and clipboards. Kellen felt their eyes on every move. Titan Corp wanted results fast. They spoke of mass production quotas and profit margins more than the planet's safety. One supervisor approached. Reyes, the board wants you to double output next cycle, she said, voice clipped. We need a test launch tomorrow, not next week. Kellen wiped his brow. He checked the drone's circuits and gave a firm nod. Understood. I'll finish the rest tonight. The supervisor gave a curt nod and walked away. Kellen felt a pang of worry. If he rushed the tests, a drone might fail. That failure could destroy months of work. He looked at his datapad. The simulations warned that Varia 9's storms could fry the electronics if the power regulation was off by even a fraction. He took a deep breath and opened a comm link to Lena. The screen flickered to life, showing her smiling face. Lena, she said, you won't believe the day I've had. He smiled despite himself. Tell me everything. She described the asteroid navigation, the shimmering rings of the station, and how proud she felt. Kellen listened, his worries drifting away. He showed her the test drones lined up like metallic beetles. Be careful, Lena said, studying the drones. Don't rush just because they demand speed. You'll finish when you finish, Kellen. He nodded, his resolve strengthening. You're right. I'll do it carefully. They said goodnight and closed the link. Kellen felt calm. He set to work under the red sun, triple-checking each circuit. He adjusted the power regulators, fine-tuning them for the storms. He programmed the test sequence slowly, with precision. Shared letters and hidden hopes. Back at the academy, Lena found a reply waiting in her messages. She opened it and read Kellen's words. My dearest Lena, I face harsh winds and tight deadlines. But I remember our nights under Asteris skies. I will not let the drones fail. I promise I will make them safe, even if it takes longer. Yours, always, Kellen. Tears sprang to her eyes. She typed a quick answer, sending sketches of new power grid layouts for the drones. She described the ring station's rotation schedule and how the shifting sunlight could power the drones during storms. Lena's design sense and Kellen's engineering skill fit together perfectly, even across the stars. They exchanged letters at every chance, simple messages that grew into detailed plans and star charts mixed with circuit diagrams. Their friends at the academy teased Lena about her secret engineering studies with a distant friend. But Lena only smiled. She knew that Kellen was the one person who understood every line she drew and every equation she solved. Renewed determination. One evening, Lena sat alone in her dorm room. The station was quiet. She held a small model drone in her hand, made from spare parts she had brought from Asteris Prime. Its wings bore little stickers of her star maps. She thought about the coming trials. Her final examination was a solo navigation course through a real nebula simulation. If she failed, she would have to wait another year for a retest. She felt her chest tighten with anxiety. She closed her eyes and imagined Kellen's calm voice. She remembered his steady hands as they worked together, in the workshop. She pictured the night flowers glowing in his jar, lighting the way on dark sands. With a deep breath, Lena opened her holopad and began mapping a new route through the nebula. She marked every current, every swirl of gas, and traced the safest path. She worked late into the night, her mind sharp and calm. Far away, Kellen checked the final drone before the big test. The wind harvester design from Lena's sketches fit perfectly. He ran the simulation, and the drone lifted smoothly into the virtual sky. No sparks flew, no alarms blared. Kellen smiled for the first time that day. He packed his tools and prepared for the test launch at dawn. Promise alive. As dawn broke on each world, one under the station's artificial sunrise and one under Varia 9's blue dawn, Lena and Kellen faced their greatest challenges so far. They carried each other's hopes like talismans, and when the trials began, neither would forget the promise made long ago on the red plains of Asteris Prime. I will marry you when I grow up. Those words, simple and true, gave them the courage to push beyond tiredness and doubt. In their hearts, they believed that together, even apart, they could reach every star and keep every promise. Lena Torres stood in the glowing cockpit of the Aurora's Grace. The simulator vessel docked at the Orbital Academy's training bay. The bay's lights dimmed, and the hollow screen flickered to life. Ahead of her stretched the Vesper Nebula, a swirling mass of violet and silver gas laced with hidden currents and charged particles. This was the Academy's ultimate test, a solo run through the nebula's shifting maze. Her palms felt damp on the control yoke. In the corner of the cockpit, a soft chime reminded her that she had exactly 30 minutes to chart a safe path and navigate through 10 waypoints. One wrong turn, and the simulation would trigger a virtual hull breach. She inhaled slowly, remembering Kellen's steady voice from their last holo call. You know what to do. Breathe. Trust your maps. Lena closed her eyes for a moment, then opened them with quiet determination. She tapped her wrist holopad and overlaid her custom star mapping grid. Tiny icons showed predicted gas flows, but the nebula was always changing. She swiped left to reveal her backup plan, a zigzag path that hugged the edges of the densest gas pockets. The simulator lights pulsed green. Ready in 3, 2, 1. The cockpit jolted as if pushed by real engines. Lena guided the ship into the nebula's outer fringe. Through the reinforced viewport, she watched violet clouds drift past like silent ghosts. At waypoint 1, a surge of charged particles flashed across her sensors. Warning lights blinked. Lena's heart pounded. She flipped the power to auxiliary shields and angled the ship's nose toward a thin opening in the gas. The shields glowed blue as they absorbed the shock. The ship trembled, then stabilized, She exhaled. That was close. Moving on, she steered toward waypoint 2. Her wrist pad beeped. Deviation alert. Trajectory off by 0.7 degrees. Lena adjusted thrusters, but the warning persisted. Frustration flared inside her. She pressed her lips together. No time to panic. She overrode the automatic correction and manually replotted the course along her zigzag map. The path was longer, but safer. At waypoint 3, heavy turbulence struck. The ship rocked and Lena gripped her seat straps. Her headset crackled with the instructor's voice. Cadet Torres, your shield integrity is at 60%. Proceed with caution. Understood, she whispered. Careful not to lose focus. Lena diverted more power to shields and throttled back. The view ahead turned into a chaotic swirl of silver and black. She followed the faint trail of her map, peering for the next waypoint marker. Suddenly, an electromagnetic pulse rippled through the nebula. All systems flickered. The lights dimmed. Lena's screen went blank for a heartbeat. She tapped the emergency power button. Red lights flared as backup systems engaged. The cockpit settled and the view returned, but she had lost visual of waypoint 4. Her stomach clenched. She paused, breathing in slow, measured breaths. She remembered the promise she and Kellen made, that they would face every challenge together. In her mind, she saw his smile and heard him say, "You can do this." With that memory, she reached for her notebook at her side, where she had sketched a simple radial grid. Using the last known coordinates, she calculated by hand and entered new inputs. The viewfinder snapped to life, revealing a narrow corridor of violet mist. "Got you," she breathed, guiding the ship through. By waypoint 5, Lena felt a calm settle over her racing heart. She had matched simulation data with her instincts. Each maneuver grew smoother as she regained confidence. She plotted the final 5 waypoints in quick succession, trusting her maps and her own skill. At the final marker, the ship burst out of the nebula into open space. The sim bay lights flared and a voice announced, "Congratulations, Cadet Torres. You have passed the Vesper Nebula trial." Lena's shoulders relaxed. She stood and unhooked her seat straps. Her classmates, who had watched from observation pods, broke into applause. She allowed herself a small smile, then bowed to the holopod window. Pride warmed her chest, but she knew this was only one test of many to come. On a distant world of rust-red canyons, Kellen Reyes faced his own trial. Titan Corp's research station on Varia 9 was built into the canyon wall, with glass tunnel walkways spanning deep chasms. Inside the central lab, a row of terraforming drones stood ready for their first live test in the planet's harsher storms. Corporate supervisors hovered in the control room behind glass, eyes fixed on the monitoring screens. Kellen's latest design allowed drones to plant microbe colonies in the soil, breaking down toxic minerals. Tonight's target, a stretch of canyon floor known for lethal acid winds. "Reyes," called the lead supervisor, Ms. Harrow, voice cool, "you have minutes before lockdown. Launch on my mark." She tapped her hollow clipboard, sending the final launch sequence. Kellen swallowed. He double-checked the last drone's power regulator. His hands trembled slightly from exhaustion and stress. Titan Corp's board demanded success. Failure meant huge losses and possibly the end of his contract. He stepped to the console and placed his hand over the launch key. "Ready when you are," he said. Ms. Harrow nodded. "Mark?" Kellen pressed the key. The console beeped and a hatch opened. Outside, crimson winds howled through the canyon. One by one, the drones rolled onto the catwalk and dropped into the storm below. Kellen watched the live feed. The first drone activated its micro-thrusters, hovering above the ground. It uncoiled tiny robotic legs and planted its microbial payload in the soil. The second drone followed, then the third. Data scrolled across Kellen's screen: temperature, acidity, microbe growth rate. Then, on Drone 4's feed, red warning lights blinked. The windshield let in corrosive acid droplets. The shields weakened. Kellen's heart raced. If that drone failed, the test might be called a failure. He tapped commands to divert more power to shields, but the simulation of acid erosion grew too strong. Ms. Harrow leaned forward. "Reyes, we lose Drone 4. Kellen's mind raced. He remembered Lena's advice. "Don't rush, safety first." He typed a rapid new sequence, throttling down drone speed so it could take shelter behind a rock outcrop before acid levels spiked. The feed flickered, then steadied. Drone 4 angled behind the rock and recharged its shields from stored energy. It emerged once the worst storm gust passed and finished its planting sequence. Ms. Harrow exhaled. "Excellent. Continue." Over the next 10 minutes, all drones completed their missions. The data showed healthy microbial colonies beginning to neutralize toxins. Titan Corp's board would be pleased. Kellen allowed himself a tired smile. He sank into a chair, fatigue washing over him. The supervisor nodded approvingly. "You did well, Reyes. Titan Corp will proceed with full-scale production." Her words should have made him happy, but he felt uneasy. He knew that rushing production could lead to mistakes on other worlds. He believed in careful, ethical engineering, exactly what Lena had taught him to stand for. That night in his sparse quarters, Kellen opened a secure link to Lena. He found her message waiting. "My dearest Kellen, you passed your trial. I could feel your calm hands guiding each drone. You prove that kindness and care are as strong as any machine. Love always, Lena." Her words warmed him. He typed back, "My dearest Lena, tonight I launched 10 drones into acid storms and saved the 4th with a quick shelter command. Titan Corp calls it a success, yet I worry they will hurry production. I promise to be careful. I will stay true to that promise. Yours forever, Kellen." He sealed the message, then lay back on the narrow cot. He looked at the tiny model drone on his desk, the one Lena and he built together so long ago. Its solar panel wings caught the red glow of the room's single lamp. In the quiet that followed, Kellen thought of Lena navigating the nebula with calm focus. He drew strength from her memory, and as sleep claimed him, he vowed to balance Titan Corp's demands with his own careful standards, just as Lena balanced daring with discipline in her star charts. Across light years of space, their separate trials tested their minds and hearts. Lena emerged from the nebula stronger, more sure of her skill. Kellen proved his worth under fire, yet discovered that standing by one's values could be the greatest challenge of all. Their letters, exchanged in the silent night, kept the promise alive. The Orbital Academy's grand forum was alive with soft chatter and the hum of hovering service droids. Tall windows curved overhead, showing the vast expanse of space dotted with distant stars. Lena Torres stood near the front row, dressed in her crisp academy uniform. Her dark hair was pulled back into a neat braid. She held her graduation certificate in one hand and a small silver case in the other. Inside the case lay the model drone she and Kellen built long ago on Asteris Prime. The ceremony was about to begin. Lena's heart fluttered like the wings of a moth. She scanned the crowd for familiar faces, classmates, instructors, even a few family members tuned in via HoloLink. But one spot remained empty, the seat reserved for Kellen Reyes, her childhood friend and promise keeper. As the head instructor stepped forward, the forum lights dimmed. Hollow projections of star charts and graduation records glowed on the walls. Lena straightened her shoulders, determined to finish this moment even if Kellen could not be here. "Cadet Torres," the instructor began, voice echoing, "you have shown courage, skill, and heart. Your final trial through the Vesper Nebula was flawless. You have earned your navigator's wings." Applause rose around Lena. She stepped forward to receive her wings, a small pin shaped like a shooting star. She pinned it to her uniform with a proud smile. Yet her gaze drifted to the empty seat, and her smile faltered. Just then, a low rumble shook the forum. The service droids paused in midair, lights blinking in surprise. A distant voice called, through the comm system, "Approaching vessel on approach vector 240. Gasps ran through the crowd. The docking bay doors at the far end of the forum slid open with a hiss. A narrow airlock corridor extended into the hall, bathed in pale blue light. A lone figure walked through, each step echoing. Lena's breath caught. Her heart pounded. She recognized that gait, tall, confident, yet gentle. The figure stepped into the brighter lights of the forum. It was Kellen Reyes. Time seemed to slow. Kellen wore a form-fitting flight suit of deep midnight blue, trimmed, with silver lines that traced constellations. Over it, he wore a light field armor vest studded with power cells, proof of his new status as a lead engineer for Titan Corp's exploration fleet. His hair was longer now, curling slightly at the nape of his neck. A calm smile lit his face as he strode toward Lena. Lena rose from her seat without thinking. The crowd fell silent, sensing the importance of this reunion. She placed her small silver case on the podium beside her and took Kellen's outstretched hand. "Kellen," she whispered, voice trembling. "Lena," he answered, his voice steady but soft. "I promised. I've come to keep it." In his other hand, he held a small velvet box. Lena's eyes widened. He knelt on one knee before her. The forum lights dimmed further, spotlighting the two of them. "Kellen Reyes," Lena said, her voice catching. "You're here." He opened the velvet box to reveal a ring of star metal, a rare alloy he had forged himself. The metal glowed with a faint inner light, reflecting the tiny constellations etched along its band. Each engraving matched a star map Lena had drawn as a child. The bird-shaped cluster, the twin suns, and the 3 moons of Asteris Prime. "I made this from the ore we collected together under the red sky of our home," Kellen said, voice low. "Every mark, every pattern is a memory of our promise." Tears shone in Lena's eyes. She thought of their nights on the dune, tracing stars with her finger and laughing as he welded scraps into toys. She remembered the promise he made, simple and pure. "I will marry you when I grow up." And she remembered how her heart soared at those words. Without hesitation, Lena took his hand and slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, as if it was always meant to be there. "I will marry you," she said, echoing his childhood vow. "When we grow up, under any sky." Kellen rose to his feet, lifting her hand to his lips and placing a gentle kiss on her knuckles. The forum broke into applause, and holodrones floated up, projecting fireworks of light across the walls. Friends and instructors cheered. Lena's classmates teared up, some whispering congratulations. The head instructor stepped forward, placing a hand on Kellen's shoulder. "Welcome, Mr. Reyes," she said with a warm smile. "Your work has guided many, and your heart has guided this one student in particular." Kellen nodded gratefully and turned back to Lena. He reached into a pocket and pulled out a rolled hologram. With a tap, he projected a 3-dimensional image of the Promise's Grace, the starship he and Lena had secretly designed together during their data stream letters. "It's ready," he said. "Built at Titan Corp's yards. A ship for us, to chart new worlds." Lena traced the ship's sleek lines with her eyes. It matched every detail of her star maps and Kellen's engineering plans. The hull bore their initials intertwined, and the bridge's windows formed the shape of a starbird. Another childhood symbol. "They built it?" Lena asked, stunned. He nodded. "I convinced them to invest. They see the value in careful exploration." He paused and smiled. "And I see the value in doing it with you." Lena felt her heart swell. She placed a hand on his chest, over his armor. "Then let us begin. Together." Kellen touched his forehead to hers. The fireworks of light flickered around them like distant nebulae. In that moment, no barrier or test could stand between them. The ceremony guardians brought 2 navigators, wings, one for Lena and one engraved with Kellen's name. He pinned his next to hers on her uniform. They stood side by side beneath the lofty dome of the forum, faces glowing with hope. A gentle murmur passed through the crowd as the head instructor raised her hand. "May all your journeys be safe, and may your promise guide you beyond every horizon." Kellen and Lena clasped hands and stepped forward. The docking bay doors slid open again, revealing the shimmering expanse of space and, beyond it, the gleaming silhouette of the Promise's Grace. Lena took a deep breath, eyes shimmering with tears and joy. "To our future," she said softly. "To our future," Kellen echoed, and together they walked into the next chapter of their adventure, two hearts united, ready to explore the stars hand in hand. The hangar bay of Titan Corp's orbital shipyard gleamed under bright white lights. Cranes hovered overhead, and hovering cargo drones moved supplies into the massive vessel docked at the center. Its name, Promise's Grace, was painted in bold letters along the hull. Lena Torres stood at the base of the gangway, her heart beating fast with excitement. At her side, Kellen Reyes checked final system readings on a handheld holopad, his brow furrowed in concentration. "All systems green," he reported, a bright smile spreading across his face. "Navigation computer, propulsion, life support, everything is ready." Lena nodded, her dark braid swinging behind her. She looked up at the ship's sleek form, long, slender wings for atmosphere entry, a reinforced star frame for faster-than-light jumps, and wide observation windows that curved around. The bridge. She remembered the nights she and Kellen spent sketching every line of this design while logged into the colony network, dreaming of a ship just like this. "Thank you, Kellen," she said softly. "You built our dream." He took her hand, steady and warm. "We built it together," he replied, his voice steady with promise. "Now, let's make it real." They stepped onto the gangway and climbed into the entry airlock. Automatic seals hissed shut behind them. The corridor lights switched to a soft blue glow as they walked toward the bridge. Along the way, crew members in crisp uniforms moved past, each smiling and offering a respectful nod. Word had spread quickly that this mission was different. It was led by two friends whose childhood promise had become a shared purpose. On the bridge, Lena's seat awaited at the central console, flanked by Kellen's engineering station. The walls around them displayed star charts, mission logs, and holographic controls. In the far corner, two stations were reserved for the drone operators who would help seed new worlds with robotic planters and atmospheric processors. Lena closed her eyes for a moment and took a slow breath. She felt Kellen's hand on her shoulder and opened her eyes to the star field projected beyond the front viewport. Asteris Prime shone like a small ruby below them, ringed by 3 pale moons. Above, the swirling colors of the Vesper Nebula glittered in memory of her trial. Beyond that lay the uncharted lanes they would explore. "Engage launch sequence," she said, her voice calm but filled with wonder. "Launch sequence engaged," Kellen confirmed. He tapped on his holopad, and alarms brightened the consoles. The crew members at their stations took their places. The drone operators checked the upload of the terraforming routines. Lena watched the countdown display at the top of her console. 10, 9, 8. She tightened her grip on the armrests. Faces around her reflected her own mixture of excitement and focus. 7, 6, 5. She felt a light vibration under her seat as the engines powered up. The Promise's Grace hummed with energy, ready to break free of the shipyards. Magnetic clamps. 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. A brief silence held the moment they broke free. Then the ship's drive roared. Through the viewport, they saw the shipyard lights recede and the curve of Asteris Prime fall away. In its place, the dark tapestry of space opened before them. "Liftoff successful," Kellen said, voice steady. "We are en route to the first jump point." Lena exhaled, relief and joy flooding her senses. She tapped the helm controls, and the ship veered gently toward a glowing waypoint marker. Ahead, a small rift in space shimmered, a wormhole gate established by the Orbital Academy for commercial jumps. "Calculating jump parameters," she announced. "Stand by for FTL." Crew members confirmed their stations. Shields at full, engines in charge, life support normal. Kellen watched his readings and nodded. Lena engaged the jump drive. The viewport rippled and the stars stretched into lines of light. In less than a second, the stars snapped back into focus, revealing a new region of space. They had arrived. Lena activated the long-range scanner. Green dots appeared, marking potential candidate worlds. One in particular caught her eye, a blue-green orb with wisps of white clouds and patches of gold deserts. Its moon glowed soft pink. World A23 looks promising, she said, pointing. Atmosphere is barely breathable, oxygen at 35%, surface temperature mild, water in small oceans. Good candidate for initial drone seeding. The drone operator at the side console nodded. Uploading terraforming routines now. Kellen leaned over, studying the drone feed. I'll monitor their initial descent. They should land near the polar caps first, where oxidation processes can start quickly. Lena watched through a small monitor as sleek black and silver drones disengaged from the ship's belly and dropped toward the planet. Tiny thrusters ignited and guided them to landing zones. Once on the ground, the drones unfurled solar sails and began planting microbial pods into the soil. Look at them go, Lena whispered, her eyes shining. Just like we dreamed. Kellen squeezed her shoulder. And this is only the beginning. They spent the next hours moving from system to system. At each world, Lena charted safe descent paths while Kellen adjusted the drone's programming to match local conditions. They discovered worlds rich in crystals, worlds with floating islands, deserts of black sand and seas of liquefied gas. Each discovery filled their logs with wonder and possibility. Along the way, they encountered friendly traders near a gas giant station, where they bartered for exotic spices that tasted of sunlight. They raced a small racing squad through an asteroid ring, reminding each other of the days they flew model drones on Asteris Prime's planes. They even hosted a festival on the ship's main deck, where crew members from many worlds shared stories, songs, and holographic dances. At night, Lena and Kellen would stand together at the observation window, gazing out at the stars. The ship's artificial gravity hummed softly beneath their feet. They spoke in low voices. Do you remember our first telescope on Asteris Prime? Lena asked, her hand resting on the window's frame. Kellen smiled, eyes reflecting distant starlight. I remember you teaching me about constellations, remembering each curve. You had them all memorized. Lena laughed. I was always a star mapper, but you gave me tools to see them better. He turned to her, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. And you gave me reasons to build. They stood in comfortable silence, wrapped in each other's warmth. Around them, the ship traveled through a silent sea of stars, carrying two hearts that dreamed of every horizon. Weeks passed. The drone swarms began to reshape atmospheres. Polar ice melted. Oceans formed. Tiny green flecks appeared as initial grass growth. In the ship's lab, samples showed increased oxygen levels and the start of simple life forms thriving in new soil. Lena recorded the progress with careful joy. We did this, she said one morning, showing Kellen the data. The world is changing before our eyes. He nodded, pride and wonder shining in his gaze. We did this together. Their final mission point lay ahead. A gas giant's lab designed to test new zero-gravity habitats. It was en route back to Asteris Prime, offering them new ideas for floating settlements. As they approached, they saw massive domes and ringed cities around the planet's clouded face. The Promise's Grace docked alongside the habitat station. Lena and Kellen disembarked in light exosuits. Crew members from the station greeted them, marveling at the terraformed worlds they had left behind. They toured experimental gardens floating in zero-G, each plant tethered by glowing vines. At the end of the tour, the station's director presented them with a small silver plaque engraved with the outline of Asteris Prime's 3 moons, and the words, "To Lena Torres and Kellen Reyes, pioneers of promise. May your dreams guide all who follow." Lena and Kellen exchanged glances, hearts overflowing. The station director bowed. Thank you for showing what humanity can achieve when hope and care guide our hands. As they returned to their ship, Kellen slipped an arm around Lena. We've made a difference, he said softly. Lena leaned into him, her eyes bright. And we will keep making one, in every corner of the stars. They boarded the Promise's Grace, prepared for the journey home. Engines hummed, lights dimmed, and the ship gently pulled away from the station. Through the viewport, they watched the gas giant fade into the distance, and ahead of them lay the star lanes back to Asteris Prime. Hand in hand, they looked to the future, a lifetime of exploration, discovery, and shared promises. Together, they would carry human hope across the universe one world at a time, and their love would shine among the stars forever bright.